Hey everyone, I am your astrologer Wonder Girl, taking you to new heights. This is your astrology horoscope for the full moon in Leo, which happens on Thursday, January 28th, 2021 at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Time or 11:15 a.m. Pacific Time, depending upon which part of the United States you're in, or really which part of the world that you are in as well. Now, what I think this full moon is really all about is about us feeling pretty good and pretty successful, that we have recently overcome some more roadblocks, stopping us from moving forward into some new and better chapter of life that I truly do believe has already arrived. But even though we're feeling very good that we've overcome some more roadblocks and things standing in our way, it's also about us being terrified that now that these old roadblocks are gone, we actually have to create the new life and work with relationships in a totally different way than we have before, which we're trying to navigate both at the same time and to work and create something in our lives that's more true and authentic to who it is that we really are from here on out. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. If you want to hear more about that, I'm actually going to hop right in. But before I get started actually talking about what this full moon is about, I always do like to place it on the chart so that you can see what it is that I'm referring to and follow along with me. So I'm going to do that now. In order to place it on the chart, we've got to look for the moon because this video is for the full moon. So we're going to look for that. Here's the moon symbol, and the moon in this chart is at 9 degrees Leo. All right, and I know this is a full moon because this moon at 9 degrees Leo is in an exact opposition here to the sun, which is at 9 degrees Aquarius. And when the moon opposes the sun, that is what is called a full moon. Now, what are full moons all about? To me, full moons are really all about two things. The first thing to me is really about completing something, taking something as far as it can go, or stepping into something to its fullest extent, which in a way is what completing something is. Right? Not only are full moons about that, completing something, but to me, they're also about ending something as well. Because once you finish something and step into it as far as it can go, then you can end it. You can end your focus on that thing and put your focus and attention elsewhere instead. So that to me is what a full moon's about. Now, what is it about this time around with the full moon being in Leo? Well, in order for me to tell you about that, now we got to talk about the sign of Leo. What is that about? Well, Leo to me has to do with quite a few things. Perhaps the first thing that I'll say is that to me, Leo is a happy sign. It's ruled by the sun. The sun shines bright. So to me, this full moon in Leo, one of the things that it's about is about happiness. Happiness, to me, Leo has to do with childlike joy, playfulness. It has to do about that, us stepping into more happiness, more childlike joy and playfulness in our lives. What else is Leo about? Well, Leo is not just correlated to the planet of the sun. It's also correlated to the symbol of the lion. And what are lions known for? Their courage and their strength in some way as well. So another thing too that we're really trying to step into, maybe I'll say that first, at this full moon in Leo, is not just more happiness and more joy and more playfulness in life, which is quite a change from that new moon in Capricorn 2 weeks ago, but we're also as well stepping more into our courage and our strength as individuals as well. So that we can move forward taking risks. To me, Leo is a little bit more of a risk taker, being a fire sign, being bold, taking risks, and doing even more things that are important to ourselves to move on, move up in the world in much, much better ways. All right. And I think that's what I want to stick with. There are a lot of other things that Leo is about, which are a little bit more complicated, which I'm going to get into in a minute, but I want to keep it simple for now and just leave it there before I move forward. So what that means to me is that this full moon in Leo, to repeat it and keep bringing it together, is that this full moon in Leo is about us stepping more into our happiness, our passion, and our joy for life so that we can feel stronger, more bold, more courageous, and take more risks to get more things that are close to our heart and move our lives onwards in positive ways. All right, now why is this a thing that is now coming up at this time, at this full moon in Leo? In order for me to tell you why this is the focus, I do always like to go back a little bit in time in order to give you the context or the story so far of how we got here so that you can see how things add up. So I'm going to do that now. because the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which I talked about all last year, is over. I'm not going to go back to that. I'm now going to go back to the last solar eclipse that we had about a month and a half ago now, which was at the last degrees of Sagittarius, right about here. I want to go back to that solar eclipse because the solar eclipse is a pretty big deal that starts cycles, I suppose you could say, and cycles that last for at least 6 months, but many times even longer, that stay with us much longer than that. So I want to go back to that solar eclipse, all right, which happened when? The middle of December? What was that solar eclipse in Sagittarius all about? It was all about, in my opinion, us stepping into a major new chapter of life, different than anything we'd ever experienced, I believe, for many years and decades prior to this point, which for some of us may have spanned our whole lifetime. Okay, I say it was about us stepping into something new and different than anything we had previously experienced, because Sagittarius is the sign of something new and different we've never experienced before, and because it was a new moon, which is also about new beginnings and new things, and because Saturn and Pluto is now done. All right. Not only was this alignment, the solar eclipse, about us stepping into a major new chapter of life, very different from what we've experienced before, but Sagittarius, in my opinion, being correlated to Jupiter, is also about gifts, good luck, expansion, blessings, good things. So not only were we at the solar eclipse about a month and a half ago stepping into some major solar eclipse new chapter of life, different from what we've experienced before, but it was about us stepping into a major new blessed chapter of life, bringing more gifts and good things that we haven't had for a while, helping us to expand our lives, our vision of ourselves in very positive and helpful ways for us to move on. And not only over the course of the past month and a half are we stepping into a new blessed chapter of life, but at the last new moon in Capricorn 2 weeks ago, which was right about here, the last degrees of Capricorn, we were trying to manage and structure that new chapter of our lives that had arrived in better ways, so that it could put our lives in a better place and get us a better result that can last the test of time to move us onwards. Okay. And while there were some complications doing that, 2 weeks ago, at that last new moon in Capricorn, managing and structuring this new chapter in life, I believe that we have overcome those complications in the past 2 weeks. Maybe we have identified what the complications were, and we have overcome those things, stopping us from moving forward into this new chapter in life that I believe has arrived. And because we have overcome those complications and moved forward, we now, full moon in Leo, which this video is for, are feeling very good. We're feeling happy. We're feeling more playful, more excited, stronger, more courageous, and more bold, because we fixed those things that were keeping us stuck and are now more open and accepting of a new chapter in life that's more fully here and more realizing its potential and its arrival, its presence, okay, and ways that I think it is that we need. All right. And I think that to me is a very broad, there's a lot more I'm going to say about this full moon in Leo, but that to me is a very broad general interpretation of what's going on. So I'm just going to repeat that one more time. What I think is going on here at this full moon in Leo is that we are feeling happy, joyful, playful, stronger, more excited about our lives, because we have fixed some things that have been keeping us stuck from more fully accepting a new chapter in life, harnessing it and moving forward on it. And not only at this time are we feeling happier, better, stronger in this new chapter in life because of that, but we're also feeling more courageous and more bold and ready to take more risks with it, so that we can continue maximizing our potential, our gifts, our blessings even more than we already have, and move forward on them in the ways that it is that we need. And I like it. I'm just going to be honest. I like it. Not only because Leo is like a happy sign. It's a happy sign. It's ruled by the sun. It's a good one. But also because this full moon in Leo is opposite here. Jupiter is opposite Jupiter, which is conjunct the sun. And I love Jupiter. Those of you who watch me know I got a little bit of a crush here on Jupiter and on Sagittarius. And I think this is good. Jupiter, again, being the planet of gifts, good luck, excitement, passion, expansion. So I like this full moon for that reason. Not only do I like it because of that, I also like it too because at the same time of this full moon, Mars is square Jupiter as well. And this to me is a good thing. When I think Mars square Jupiter, I think success. I think we're feeling successful. To me, Mars square Jupiter is always the alignment where I think of a general, because Mars has to do with like war sometimes. I think of a general who just came out of a war, came out of a battle and beat it and won, and now is being celebrated in the town and is feeling so pumped up for the next battle, if there is one, in order to fight. So I like it. I think we get to this full moon in Leo and there's something about us that is feeling so much better than we were 2 weeks ago, like night and day, and feeling so much more excitable and passionate about what's to come and successful for what it is that we've accomplished in some way, allowing us to move on. Okay. Allowing us to move on and to do other things, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But before I give you even more information about this full moon in Leo and what it's about and go even deeper into the interpretation, because that to me was kind of a little bit of a light and fluffy interpretation of this full moon in Leo, I do want to go back for a minute to the past 2 weeks and what has happened since that last new moon in Capricorn. I want to go back to talk to you about that. Because I don't know if I explained it super clearly in my last video. I feel like I may have left some of you confused. So I want to go back for a minute to just explain the past 2 weeks and what it is that we've really been trying to work through, to beat and to conquer, that now we're feeling so good about, so that you can get more of the perspective of what that time was. So I'm going to do that now. All right. The last 2 weeks before this full moon in Leo, we were trying to fix some things that were keeping us stuck from moving forward into a new chapter in life that I really do believe had already arrived. Okay, the reason why we were trying to fix some more things that was keeping us stuck is because all of a sudden at that new moon in Capricorn 2 weeks ago, we got a really hard alignment out of nowhere, which was Saturn in Aquarius making a square over here to both Uranus and Mars and Taurus, which is difficult because Saturn and Mars are both malefic planets here, and Mars and Uranus are in signs they don't like to be in. So the past 2 weeks, we were feeling stuck from our blessings, like our blessings weren't here, like some new chapter in life wasn't fully arriving because there was something standing in the way. Now, under normal circumstances, what I would have said, perhaps in my last video about 2 weeks ago on that new moon in Capricorn, is that it was an external thing that was standing in our way, is that it was an external person or a money situation or a job standing in our way, preventing us from moving forward. But this isn't normal circumstances, especially not after Saturn and Pluto all last year in a solar eclipse in Sagittarius. And because this isn't normal circumstances, I did not think that what we were trying to overcome the past 2 weeks was a physical external roadblock. Instead, what I think we were trying to overcome the past 2 weeks was more of an internal roadblock, an emotional thing that was inside and not outside. Okay. The reasons why I thought that and still think that is not only because these are atypical circumstances that are going on now in the astrology, but also because for the past 2 months, there really have not been any majorly challenging astrological alignments. There just hasn't been. Okay, especially since the Saturn-Pluto conjunction ended around the end of last year, like October, November of last year. And because there were no challenging alignments in the astrology from November of last year to till the new moon in Capricorn, to me, what the challenge has been for the past few months is not an external thing that's going on. It's been something else. All right. And the reason why I think it was an internal thing is because the only hard alignment, or the hardest alignment that has lingered over the course of the past 2 months, was this one was Neptune here in Pisces, making a square to the nodal axis, which includes the south node here in Sagittarius and the north node in Gemini. And this alignment kind of started around November, but it's a slower moving one. It has been going on throughout this whole time period. And what is Neptune about? The hardest alignment been going on for the past few months. Neptune and Pisces. Neptune, I should note, in its home sign of Pisces, meaning they both are correlated to each other. What is this about? Well, Pisces, the first thing is a water sign. What are water signs about? Water signs are about our emotions. It's about the internal emotional stuff inside our own soul that we're working with. Not only is Pisces about the emotional stuff within our own soul, but it's also about our psychology. The water signs have a lot to do about that, how we think about our lives, how we make sense of our lives, how we process our lives internally. And Neptune in a square to the nodes is a little bit of a tense or intense alignment. So all of that, what all of that means to me is that our challenges over the course of the past 2 or 3 months preventing us from stepping into a new and blessed chapter of life that I believe really is here is not anything else. Is not anything else standing in our way. That was last year. Last year it was everything else, everyone else in our way. That was last year. It's not. The challenges standing in our way now, this year, the end of last year into this year is not an external thing. It's an internal emotional thing that's been going on, an internal emotional struggle or struggle within our psychology, within the way that we make sense of ourselves and within the way that we make sense of our lives. Okay. In what way is this emotional struggle that we were experiencing, or this psychological struggle? Well, other things that you get with Neptune and Pisces, things that in particular come up, are this: self-sabotage is the thing that Neptune and Pisces brings. Again, this is not something I'm making up out of thin air. If you don't trust me, you can Google negative traits of Pisces or of Neptune, and self-sabotage will come up in a lot of the sources that you can just Google online. So I'm not saying this just to say it. This is things that's documented elsewhere. Okay, what is self-sabotage? Self-sabotage to me is when nothing is wrong in our lives, but we feel it's wrong or we think it's wrong for reasons that are not based in reality, and then create problems externally where there are none to mirror what's going on inside. So one of the things that I think has been going on over the course of the past 2 months is not that anything externally has been wrong. It's that things emotionally and internally within our psychology have been wrong, causing us to sabotage perfectly good situations or not take advantage of them to their fullest extent. If it's not self-sabotage, another thing as well that Neptune and Pisces can bring is victimization, is feeling like a victim when we're not. Again, this is not an interpretation I'm making up out of thin air. This is Neptune and Pisces, textbook Neptune and Pisces. Okay, so there can be a lot of victimization that could have been going around as well over the course of the past 2 or so months, preventing us from moving forward into this new chapter in life. I can't move forward into this new chapter in life because something bad's going to happen, and I'm this and I'm that, and everything's against me. Everything's against me. So there could have been this internal feeling of being a victim that was also preventing us from moving forward. Now, a note: were we a victim at one time? Yes, totally. I totally believe, I will say, I totally believe, based on the astrology, that a lot of us have experienced abuse and trauma or been victims of trauma in our past, and maybe the not too recent past, especially for much of 2020. But even though we may have been victims in our past, I think the astrology is trying to say that us continuing to see ourselves as victims, even if we are, is no longer helpful for us to move forward. Eventually, we have to make our own choices to move on, because our abusers don't always come around and apologize. Okay, so there's a little bit of that's been going on as well over the course of the past 2 months, preventing us from moving forward. We think we're victims when either we're not anymore, when we're not anymore, or when to continue to think we are is simply not healthy and not productive and not going to allow us to move on. Okay, if it wasn't that's going on. Another thing that Neptune and Pisces brings is illusions, not seeing things clearly, or being in fantasy land. So another thing that could have been the problem over the course of the past 2.5 2.5, 2 months or so could have been us having illusions about our life, not seeing our life clearly for what it actually is, seeing it differently. I use the word fantasy land, but maybe for some of us, it's more like nightmare land. Us having illusions, thinking that our life is worse than it actually is, or is never going to get better, which has been hard for us. Okay, I think that's really what's been going on. Could it have been, another point, could it have been healing that we're trying to do here? Could it also have been more emotional healing over the course of the past 2 months that needed to happen in order for us to move forward? Sure. Okay, Pisces is a healing sign. It's one of the signs to me that's like the mark of a healer. It can definitely be that some of us were still trying to heal more things. But if I can be honest with you, I believe that the healing happened last November, the new moon in Scorpio, but before this solar eclipse in Sagittarius, when Chiron started to station to go direct, which is also about healing. So sure, some of us could have legitimately still been trying to heal over the course of the past few months. But in my opinion, the healing took place in November, whether we admit it or not. And because the healing took place even October, November, and a little bit of December, and we don't think we healed when we did, it now became January, a month and a half ago, self-sabotage, victimization, and illusions, not seeing things clearly, not seeing things for what they really are, which is good, which is better out of these hard times, with more control now over our situations and how we move forward. Okay, and I think that's really what over the course of the past 2 weeks we were trying to address, especially at that new moon in Capricorn, which was tough. We were trying to figure out here, what is the thing that was keeping us stuck, which in my opinion was an emotional, psychological thing, self-sabotage, victimization, feelings of victimization and illusions, because the healing had already occurred. And I don't think at that new moon in Capricorn, we could see that this was the case, right? I mean, that's the thing about Neptune and Pisces. Everything's kind of confusing and out there. I don't think at that new moon in Capricorn, we could see that that was the case, which was maybe why I felt intuitively that the new moon was being tough on us. I don't think we knew 2 weeks ago entirely that that was the case, because why? Back to the full moon in Leo. What is Leo about? Sure, I talked about Leo being a lot about happiness, being a lot about joy, courage, strength, and all of that. But another thing that Leo is about our identity. It's about who we are at our core, being correlated to the sun, which has to do with our identity. That's why everyone looks up their sun sign, because the sun has to do with who we are at our core, which correlates in some ways to Leo. And I don't think we saw 2 weeks ago that it was that, the self-sabotage or the illusions about ourselves or the victimization, because this sense of things always going wrong was so ingrained within our identity and within who we were. Because things have gone wrong, right? For a really long time in our lives. So it's just become a part of us. These hard times have just become a part of us. And I think what's gone on over the course of the past 2 weeks is that we've realized, oh, this is the problem, the emotional stuff, the self-sabotage that I gotta fix, because it's so ingrained in my identity. And that not only did we realize that's what it was and that we needed to fix, but we realized as well that we needed to release, full moon, release, end the old identity, Leo, that identified with the old things that were hard, so that we could beat the self-sabotage, beat the feelings of victimization, beat the illusions about our lives, and move on. To release that part of ourselves that says, I'll never be in love. Relationships just don't work for me. I'll never have friends. I can't make friends. Friends don't like me. I just don't fit in. That part of ourselves that says, I'll never be able to fix the relationship with my family. I'll never be able to have a good relationship with my mother, my brother, my sister. The part of us that says, I'll never be able to make money. I'll never be able to start a business. People will never like this idea. People will never buy this idea that I have, this creative idea to make money. This part of us that says, I'm always going to be sick and unwell and unhealthy. That's who I am. I'm always going to be depressed. And I think that's what we did. I think that's what we did over the course of the past 2 weeks, and maybe some of us are still in the process of doing, still in the process of rooting out the identity, the old identity that thinks that we're a victim or that thinks that something is wrong when it's not. Now, one other note that I did want to make before I move on is that if these problems, challenges that came up the past 2 weeks weren't issues of self-sabotage, victimization, and emotional stuff that was really ingrained within our identity as a result of all the pain from our past experiences, where we're feeling overly hurt based on the past, then some of these things that have been keeping us stuck that came to our awareness over the course of the past 2 weeks could also be issues surrounding our ego and our pride. There is a good definition of ego as well, but I'm using it here in particular in a negative sense as well. That's because not only is Leo about our identity in a lot of ways, but it's also correlated to our ego and to our pride. So if some of us over the course of the past 2 weeks haven't experienced challenges because we overly identify with bad things and think they're still around when they're not, then some of us could be struggling to move forward over the course of the past few weeks because we feel too prideful or we think too highly of ourselves as to where we're preventing ourselves from moving forward. Some of us may think, I'm too good to start again. You know, I do things right the first time. I'm too good to let my old identity go. I'm too good to struggle with these things. I'm too strong to show weakness. That could be part of what's coming up, and that could be part of what's stopping you from really moving forward into these blessings that are now here in these new chapters. But again, it's not really for me to say which one you struggle with, the identity part or the ego or the pride. It's really just up to me at this time to explain to you that that's what's going on so that you can use your own intuition in order to reflect on your own situation and decide for yourself. But regardless of whether or not the problem over the course of the past 2 weeks or so was our identity, was our ego, was our pride, or any of these other things that I mentioned, I think that we have come to an understanding or a realization by now of what that is, and have already taken steps to eradicate it, to understand it better, to overcome it, and to move on from it. Now putting us in a better space where we're feeling a bit more successful at what we have done or accomplished. And I think that's what I'm going to say there before I add the next piece of the puzzle on top of that. So I think I'm going to try to repeat that one more time to bring it all together before I move on. What I think is going on or has gone on over the course of the past 2 weeks here is that we were trying to step into a new chapter in life that was really here, but we weren't feeling as though it was here because our old identity still identified too much with the hard and the bad times that no longer exist, that no longer are around. Okay. And because it was difficult for us to step into this new chapter in life because we identified with these old things, we couldn't see that that's what it was because it was so ingrained within us, and we had to get to the bottom of it. And getting to the bottom of the old identity that was blocking us from moving forward revealed a lot of self-sabotage that was going on here, a lot of emotional and psychological stuff, and a lot of sense of victimization that needed to be fixed. And I believe that over the course of the past 2 weeks, we have fixed all those things close to our identity that we couldn't see that were keeping us stuck from moving on. And because we have fixed those, we're now feeling happier, better, stronger, more courageous, more bold, more excited, and more successful in order for us to move forward in the ways that it is that we need. Okay, which I like. But even though we're feeling good, now I'm going to add another layer about this full moon in Leo on top of it. But even though we are feeling good about this, about what we've been able to do and about where we are now in life, being more open to a new chapter and new blessings, I think there is still a little bit of a challenge that it is that we may be feeling at this time. Okay. What is that challenge? That challenge is going to be right here where Venus is at the time of this full moon, making a conjunction over here to Pluto in Capricorn. Okay, why is this a hard alignment? This is a hard alignment because Pluto is involved, and Pluto is a malefic planet, which typically brings very challenging events, especially by hard aspect, of which a conjunction in many ways is considered. So this is a difficult thing at the same time that we're feeling very, very good and very successful about overcoming a lot. In what way is this difficult? I'll give you a few interpretations, but the first one that I want to say is about ourselves and our identity. Sure, the full moon in Leo is about our identity, but so also is Venus in a lot of ways, because one of the signs that Venus is correlated to is Taurus. And Taurus is about our confidence. It's about our sense of self. It's about our self-worth. It's about our values systems in some way. So what this means to me is that even though at this time we have released the old identity attachments to the old hard things that were keeping us stuck, so that now we can more fully embrace a new, different, better chapter in life, we're still feeling challenged about who we are and about who we're becoming and about what we're creating next. Challenged Pluto about who we are at Venus. Why are we feeling challenged? Well, I think it's because we're feeling, do I want to say, naked and stripped bare. Because at the full moon in Leo, we released an old identity that we had been bound up in, that had kept us safe in some way. You know, the identity is important. Who we think we are, how we conceive of ourselves is important in a lot of ways, because we have released that old identity and we no longer have that to rely on as a script when things get hard, because we no longer have that as a story about what used to happen to us to tell ourselves anymore. Now, we're free to create whoever else we want to be from here on out, but creating a new identity, a new sense of self without the old clothes, without the old stories is very scary and is very triggering in some way. Because we feel exposed, we feel vulnerable, we feel raw about what we're doing, and we don't know quite what we're doing and who it is that we want to be next, which can be a little bit hard here, okay? I think it's a lot of that. It's like, yeah, taking off the mask, taking off our clothes, not in a physical sense. It's easy nowadays to be physically naked, but it's in an emotional sense. We're taking off the mask, the clothes emotionally, and being stripped bare to our core in order for us to start again, start all over again, creating a different experience from here on out with a different identity, which is both liberating at the same time, but terrifying. Okay, because of how vulnerable we are and because of how uncertain we are about what's next and what we are creating. Not only could we be a little bit challenged because we're having to start from the beginning to create something else in our life that hasn't existed before from a more raw and vulnerable place, naked, exposed kind of place. But we're also feeling a little bit sensitive too, because with Mercury about to go retrograde in Aquarius very soon, we're having to rethink a lot of things we thought we knew about ourselves and about who we were and about how we express our truth, express Mercury more authentically, Aquarius, to the public, to a larger audience, about what it is that's going on inside us as well. That could just be a little bit of a challenge. It's this feeling, to bring it all together, it's this feeling of good. I've released the old things keeping me stuck from reaching a new, better, and blessed life, which was my identity. This is great. A new chapter in life is here. But even though it's great that I've released this old identity and the old things of the old life, and a new, better chapter in life is here, I'm terrified because now I actually have to create the new life, and I don't know what the new life is. And creating this new life is going to require me to start from ground zero, from a really bare, naked, true, authentic place. And to rethink and rework a lot of things in my life about my identity, to totally rip up the old foundation in life and build a new one. That is a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. I don't think some of us have felt this vulnerable or this raw in a long time, and maybe even in our whole lives. So it's a lot. Not only is this a lot too because of that, because we're having to totally relay the foundation of our emotional life, of our inner life, and two of our outer life as well. But it's also hard as well because of the relationship component that naturally comes into this, all right? Because not only does Venus correlate to the sign of Taurus, which is a lot about ourselves and our own sense of self-worth and confidence, but Venus also correlates to the sign of Libra. And what is Libra about? It's about relationships and about other people. So not only are we triggered at this full moon because we have to relay the foundation from our lives from the bottom up, totally naked, with none of the trappings of the old life that we used to rely on to make us feel safe. But we're also feeling triggered as well because of something with relationships. Maybe a relationship comes back to us to say something, or maybe we just intuitively feel pulled. Pluto kind of does that, feel pulled or called to work something out with a relationship that maybe we neglected a few weeks and a few months ago, dealing with our emotional, psychological stuff. That wasn't right. Okay. So another thing that's hard at this full moon in Leo is not just that we're having to totally reconceptualize ourselves naked from the ground up, but that other people are coming back to us while we're feeling so exposed, or that we feel intuitively called to go back to them to work some things out that maybe we didn't do right or neglected in the past in order to move forward while we're in this vulnerable and raw state. Because people are a healthy part of life. We need people in order for us to move forward. Being a whole person, that can be the challenge, okay? It can be the challenge to go to people with this vulnerability, or for other people to come to us. And for us to have to rework with Mercury about to go retrograde, rework our relationships from this more vulnerable and authentic place. Not only could it be a challenge because again, Venus is conjunct Pluto, a malefic planet, while Mercury is about to go retrograde. Not only could this relationship thing be a challenge because we're having to work things out with relationships, whether they come to us or we go to them, from a more vulnerable, raw place without the mask, feeling absolutely naked, and are standing on our naked truth about life. But we could also feel a little bit triggered about relationships as well, because Mercury retrograde, things from the past, because people that we talk to integrate our new identity into, or people who come to us may have screwed us over in the past. So, and they may be coming back, Mercury retrograde, to make amends, or to fix things in some way. So there could be a lot of triggering in relationships that's going on. How do I meet you from a more authentic place when I'm terrified of this, my naked truth that now I've been stripped down to? And not only how can I meet a relationship in this scary place that I'm now in, but I'm also kind of angry, upset, emotional. If it's not angry, upset, emotional about this relationship who neglected me earlier, who left me on red, didn't answer my messages, who got mad at me, or I picked fights with. There's also a little bit of the baggage that comes from the past as well that now needs to be worked out. Okay. That's hard. It's hard. It's hard to have a conversation with someone about your authentic truth and about the things that scare you and keep you up at night and have plagued you for months and years. And so that's what makes these conversations hard. Very emotionally charged with the Pluto there, and a little bit confusing. Not only is it hard to have these emotional conversations with people, but there's also, it's hard to have these emotional conversations with people because of the amount of time that may have passed with people from the last time we talked to them while we were trying to get ourselves in order. So there's also the added challenge of that. Not only do I have to be vulnerable with you in a more real way and in an authentic way than I've ever been in my entire life, but you screwed me over, or we haven't talked in so long, and the last time we talked it was kind of weird, and now we haven't talked in so long, and now you're back, and I'm confused about what that time apart was all about, and now we have to go dive in very deep to all the deep emotional stuff so soon, so fast. So there's a lot of stuff there that's going on that could be a bit hard there and bring a lot of challenges. But does that mean to avoid? Does that mean to avoid the challenge? Does that mean to avoid it? Oh, this is hard. Formulating a new identity from the ground up where I'm more authentically myself. It's hard. I'm just not going to do it. Do we say that? Oh, going back to a relationship that I hurt or that hurt me, to work some things out. It's just too hard. And to be vulnerable and to be real, it's just too hard. I'm not going to do it. Is that what we say? No. Just because something's hard does not mean avoid it. A matter of fact, I would say because something's hard, it's more of the reason to do it. Because when something's hard, when you have a lot of emotional feelings about it, it means that it's important to you. It means that there's something, sure, to lose, but it means that there's also something there to gain and to learn instead. So because this is hard, I don't know if I can be this vulnerable, authentic with myself and another person, and express myself publicly to other people in this way. Does it mean we avoid it? No, it doesn't. It means that we do it anyways. We do it anyways, because this is a full moon in Leo after all, right? And Leo is about courage, strength, the sign of the lion. We do it anyways. We get our courage up to do it anyways in order for us to move on. Okay. And why? Why do we do it? Because, the response that we're going to get from relationships isn't guaranteed. Like, I wish I could tell you the way it's going to go in relationships. I think it's going to vary for each of your situations. Is a person going to want to hear what you have to say or not? Are they going to be respectful of your truth or not? I think it's going to vary. In my opinion, I suppose, if I can be honest, I think people are going to be pretty understanding. Maybe not at first, but definitely by the time Mercury retrograde ends, about 3 or so weeks from now, around February 20th, I think things are going to come together and people are going to be pretty understanding. So my thought here is that it's going to be just fine. But I think there could be a tough moment here at the very beginning, and I think it's going to vary for some of you. And because that, my instinct here is to not say, do these things, have these conversations with people, knowing that everything is going to be fine and that you're going to get the result that you want. I think you need to have these conversations with people, with yourself, not knowing the answer, not knowing the outcome, and still doing it anyways. Still doing it anyways, in order for you to move forward. Okay. Why do I think that we need to still do it anyways, even if we don't know the outcome? Although I think that at least from 3 weeks from now, they'll be just fine. I think that we should do it. Well, when do I want to bring the astrology in here? I will just say, I think we should do it to prove something to ourselves here that we need in order to move on, to prove that we are a different person, that we are stronger, and to be more honest about where we are moving forward. Okay, another reason why I think we need to do it anyways, regardless of what this other person says or does, or whether the outcome is, whether they like your naked truth, regardless of that, is because not only is the full moon in Leo about courage, but the full moon is opposite the sun, which is in Aquarius, conjunct Saturn, one of the rulers of Aquarius. And what is Saturn about? Saturn is about doing the hard thing, having integrity, standing up for what's right, making the hard choice, making the hard decision. So another reason why I think we need to go back, regardless of the outcome of how these people respond to us, is so that we can make things that were wrong right some wrongs here and from the past, and so that we can prove to ourselves that we are a different person regardless of the outcome, and that we can move on in a better way. I think that's why we should do it. Another reason why I think that we should do it as well is because having these hard conversations not only proves to us that we can do it and that we can conquer some part of ourselves that's been hard, but having these difficult conversations as well, I think also helps to give us more clarity about our circumstance, about our situation, about ourselves, and about the people in our lives, and about who is with us in life and who is not with us. Because another thing that Aquarius is about is authenticity, right? It's the sign, I think, that has a lot to do with our authentic self and our authentic truth. So going back to talk to people with these hard conversations is going to give, in a more authentic way, is going to give more clarity about who supports us and who doesn't. Especially too, because Aquarius is an interesting sign. Aquarius is ruled, sure, by Saturn, which I just mentioned, but also by Uranus as well. And it's kind of interesting to have both Saturn and Uranus rule one sign, because both Saturn and Uranus are kind of oxymorons, right? They're kind of opposite things. Uranus is a lot about freedom and liberation and doing what it wants whenever it wants. And Saturn is about restriction and hard work and responsibility and not doing whatever you want because there are other things to take care of. So there's this dichotomy that Aquarius is about. Why, to me, is Aquarius about that? Aquarius, to me, is about that because it teaches that freedom, Uranus, Aquarius, isn't free. Saturn, Aquarius, that freedom isn't free, that being your authentic self in your life and with relationships comes at a cost, comes at a price, comes at a sacrifice in order to move forward. That if you want to be your authentic self, to express your freedom, to create whoever you want to be next, you have to risk losing something. You have to risk, especially with the full moon being in Leo, risk losing something, risk losing the people who don't get your authentic truth so that you can move forward. That's an Aquarius lesson. If it's something you really want, what are you going to give up in order to get it? You know, freedom's not free. I know that sounds like a cliche thing to say, but it's not. If freedom were free, we wouldn't need troops to fight for it. We wouldn't need armies to go to war for all of it. It would just be, right? Freedom's not free. In order for there to be freedom, free rights, the right to speak my own truth, I need to give up the right to deny someone else from speaking their truth. In order for me to have the freedom to express my unique beliefs, I need to be okay with someone expressing their beliefs that I don't agree with. I need to give up that freedom to shut that other person's rights down. So there's a lot of things that are going on here at this time. That just because we may talk to some people and be vulnerable and raw and honest about ourselves and naked in a way we've never been before, which is terrifying, that even though we may go to other people and do that and that they may not like it and that they may not want to be with us and that they may turn us down, for us to do that is part of life. And we shouldn't be scared of that. Because going to people and expressing our native truth is going to show us that we are strong and that we can move on and that we can conquer these old things and that we can create something else. And it's going to show us who accepts that and who doesn't. And seeing who accepts that and who doesn't is a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a gift to cut the people out who don't want to be with you before it gets too late. And before you get too involved with them, and before you get too entwined with them, and 5 years later, you're arguing and you can't be together anymore. So it may feel hard to do, but to have these hard conversations now is a blessing because it's going to prevent a lot of trauma and pain 5 years from now. Whoops. Sorry, I think I just got a package. So I think there's a lot of messages as well about that during this time period. Arrow, my dog Arrow just stealing the show during all my videos. Anything else I want to say about that? I think that's the message there. We have to not be afraid to express our authentic truth to ourselves, to our relationships, and to a larger audience, no matter the response that we get from other people. I think people are going to come around. I think people are, especially by the end of Mercury retrograde 3 weeks from now. Although, of course, it depends who you're dealing with and the nature of your situation. But I think people are going to come around. I do. But the whole point is not whether people are going to come around. The whole point is that you do it afraid. You do it scared. You do it anyways. Because doing it teaches you about yourself and helps you grow stronger and gives you the clarity that you need in order to create a life more meaningful to you and more valuable. All right. And I think that's it. I think that's it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at the inside degree. Look at the inside degree for this full moon and explain. Well, do I want to repeat? Yeah, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to repeat one more minute to bring all that together, and then I'm going to look at the inside degree for more about this full moon. What I think this full moon in Leo is really all about is about us feeling so much stronger as a person, as an individual, and so much more successful because we conquered a lot of things that were keeping us stuck from accepting a new chapter in life and bringing more blessings into our life that are now here and that is now available to us. And because the things that we conquered was an old identity attachment to old things that are no longer around, all right? And because we're feeling good and strong that we conquered those things and can move on, we're now terrified that we have to start building this new chapter in life from a more true, real, authentic place, without the armor, without the clothes, without the coping mechanisms of the past that we used to have, because we got to rework a lot of old things in order to get there in that better way. Not only are we terrified because now we actually have to meet life from a more true, authentic, vulnerable, raw place that we've never really been in life before, but we're also feeling terrified as well because we're going to have to go back to relationships. Either they're going to come to us, or we're going to feel intuitively pulled to go to relationships in order to fix some things there, fix some things that were hard from the past that maybe weren't that great, and to show up in a more real way without the trappings of the old things keeping us stuck as well. That's going to trigger a lot of emotions and possibly even some hard, confusing conversations with people as well. But I believe that we need to do it anyways. We need to fight through these feelings and get the courage to have the hard conversations with people anyways, and to be our more true, authentic self regardless of the outcome. We need to do that to prove to ourselves that we can do it, to prove to ourselves that we are different, that we are strong, and to get more clarity on who is in our lives and who isn't, and who loves us. Leo's also about love, loves us for who we really are and accepts it and deserves a spot in our life, and who doesn't love us and who doesn't deserve us and who needs to go so that the people who are meant for us and the things that are meant for us can make their way to us. If not now, then after Mercury retrograde ends 3 weeks from now. Okay. So that we can bring more things together. All right, and that's what I think is going on there. Now, I'm going to talk about your inside degree for the full moon in Leo. This full moon in Leo is at 9 degrees, and this was the one that I liked the most, so I'm going to read it to give my thoughts on it. Now, these inside degrees, I should note, are not my own. They're written by a person named Elias Lonsdale, who channeled meanings for each of the degrees of the zodiac. Okay. So let's start here. Leo 9, it says the bare, stark truth. I think I've explained a lot of that so far in this interpretation, is that there's something that's going on at this full moon in Leo where we have to be bare. We have to lay ourselves bare, stark naked, our truth, who we are, what we've been dealing with, what's going on under the hood. That's been hard for us. And that's what we want to deal with from here on out. We need to do that. Okay. It also says this inside degree, an extraordinary gift. The gift to be quintessentially yourself, of which it abounds, of which there is a lot of. So us being our naked truth and expressing that is a gift, because it allows us to be who we are at our core, to be free to express ourselves and to do it in spades, more so than we've been able to do it over the course of the past few months and years. Because I think the past few months and years, we've been fake or pretending to be someone else in order to survive, in order to be liked, in order to fit in. And now we're coming out of that. Now we're saying, I don't want to be fake, because when I'm someone I'm not, I attract people I'm not attracted to. I attract people who aren't meant for me. And we're coming out of that, and we're coming into something more true and more honest to who we are. And because of that, it's a gift to feel more free. That is going to help us move forward. But even though this is a huge gift, a good thing to be yourself, to be seen for who you are, because that's how real connection happens. You know, like that's another point. Maybe some of us are so afraid to be honest with another person about who we really are. But that's what real intimacy is. Real intimacy isn't doing and saying what you think you should do or say, isn't doing or saying what you think the other person wants to hear, because that's not really you. That doing that makes you a robot, makes you a mask. The person doesn't love you. They love something else that's not you. So real intimacy is expressing your deepest truth, even if it's hard, instead of hiding it, it's a gift, which is what's going on here. And it says to this inside degree, that was a side note here, that real intimacy can only be based on truth if you want real intimacy and love in your life, which I believe we all do. Okay. But even though this is a huge gift, being yourself, bringing you truly being seen and loved for who you are, it is endangered here. Why? Why is it endangered? Because being your true self, even though it can bring real love, real intimacy, higher, greater than what I think we've experienced in a long time, it can also lead to problems. We can be seen falsely by others and turned around. People can see our true selves and not like it. I don't like it. People can see our true selves and misinterpret it. And instead of them misinterpreting the mask, misinterpreting the fake us, which we could care less about, they misinterpret the real self, and that hurts more. So there's a lot of that that's going on. Not only is it hard to be your real self because people could not see it right, turn it around, twist who you are, not reject it, not like it, but it's also hard too because you have to puncture through the illusions, the illusion of image that other people had of you before you express your real truth. So there's a lot of that. There's a huge gift here. There's a huge gift this full moon in Leo is bringing. Real love, true intimacy with another person in your life and even with your own self, to express yourself more authentically, to be seen for who it is you truly are. But even though it's a gift, it is endangered. It's hard. It's frustrating. It's scary because being your real self means that people may not like who you are, may twist it around. It means that you got to puncture through a lot of illusions that they put on you on the past or that you willingly accepted on the past as well. That's hard. It says this, the drama, there's a drama that involves, there's a drama that happens because of this, and an emotional drama, and I think even a relationship drama that could go on at this time. There's a drama that occurs. Each subtle weakness takes charge. We feel weak, strong but weak at the same time, which is like the weird dichotomy of this full moon in Leo, which is interesting because I think being weak is strength, but doesn't always feel that way in the moment. So we're feeling strong that we've overcome a lot of things from the past, but weak because now we got to do all this other stuff. And because we're feeling strong but weak because of this drama about being our authentic self, it then feels like we're taken a long way to a very simple quality. Right? Which is kind of the way I feel like things have been going the past few months. Like, the blessings are here, we've been taking the long way to get to the blessings, even though I think we're going to be in a very good place come April, and we're going to have done more than we thought we could by a long shot. But it feels like we're taking the long way. I think it feels like we're taking the long way here to some very good things that are arriving. And to me, this confirms it. Because we're afraid of something that's really good, that we really need to do, we're taking the long way to something very simple. Which perhaps is necessary, right? Because it says it would mean nothing unless it were first gone. How could we know that real authenticity wasn't valued unless we experienced all the crap we experienced the past few months and years from other people and things and all of that? Okay. Yeah, suffering and self-knowledge. All comes easy, nothing comes easy. The riddle of destiny. There is a bit of that. The long way, the short way, something both at the same time. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. Okay. So again, it's not just me who's saying this. When I give you these full moon horoscopes, there's a lot that goes into it. Not just my astrological knowledge and my intuition, but also I look at some of these things and think on them as well to give you a full picture. And this to me confirms a lot of that other stuff here that I was saying, is that we have to be true to ourselves, because that's what makes life worth living. True to ourselves and true to in our relationships, but it's hard. It's dramatic, it's emotional here, and we're going to have to overcome the emotions, even if we have to go a weird way in order to do it with these relationships and with ourselves in order for us to move on, but that we need to do it, and it's going to be for the best. Okay. Any other thought that I also wanted to say? There's one other thought I wanted to say about the inside degree as well, and that's by looking at the next one, Leo 10. Sometimes I like to look at the next inside degree to see what we're moving towards and what we're coming to. And the only thing I really wanted to point out about 10 degrees Leo was like the masculine energy that's involved in this inside degree, because you do have here the little summary of 10 degrees Leo saying a man putting olive oil all over his body, like a man anointing himself I think olive oil has sacred properties with and healing properties. So it's like a man anointing himself to kind of help him step into his power. And that stood out to me. Okay. I mean, there's also a lot here about power as well. If you read down, there's also a transcendent power, a greater selfhood presence blessing so that the light can burn brighter. So another message that I'm getting, and maybe I should say this, that stuck out to me, Leo 10, because of the new moon in Capricorn, which was also a very masculine, boy power kind of degree. The new moon in Capricorn was right around here, an old priest using oil to anoint a carved stone lingam. So the 10 degrees Leo stood out for me because of that. Both of these insight degrees of the new moon and now the full moon have a lot of stuff going on with masculine energy. I mean, the last degree was a man using olive oil to anoint his body, and now it's an old priest using also oil to anoint a carved stone lingam. And my understanding is that a lingam is like a sculpture, a stone sculpture of a penis. I mean, how these are all very masculine symbols here, and these aren't sexual degrees. It's not like a woman does this to a man. It's a man doing it to another man, an old priest doing it to another man, not as a sexual act, or a man doing it to himself, not as a sexual act, but as a rite of passage of some sort, or as an endowment or a bestowing of power of some sort. So another point that I also want to mention as well is that there's something that's also happening at the same time that all of this is going on, is that the masculine energy in our lives, whether you're a man or a woman, is starting to come back, to be revitalized, to gain more strength and more power, to make it easier to do things. Now, I do want to say, I do believe the masculine energy is coming back in a new way. So it's not the masculine energy continuing to do things the way it's always done things. It's the masculine energy coming back in a new way that honors more of the feminine, the softer side of life, the emotional side of life, especially with the solar eclipses being in Cancer all last year. So this isn't like the same old kind of masculinity we're used to, but it is a different kind of masculinity that I think is just as good, if not better, that now is starting to get strong. Where for women, it's getting easier for us to use our masculine energy in a new way that's more honoring of our feminine in order to move forward, or for feminine people. And for masculine people, it's getting easier to bring that natural desire back to do things, to make things happen in a healthier way, more honoring of everyone, of the feminine and of other people, in order to bring things together that I think is good and that I think we haven't seen in a long time. And to me, the masculine energy, and again, I'm no expert on this, and each of you could have your own definitions, which is totally fine, right? I'll always use your intuition over mine. But the masculine energy to me is one that's not afraid to do hard things, that's not afraid to deal with hardship, and that shows up anyways. I mean, Leo is a masculine sign, it's a fire sign. And something about Capricorn, kind of masculine as well. So I think that now at this full moon in Leo, to say it again, is when some kind of masculine sense in ourselves, or the masculine people in our lives start to feel like I'm regaining strength now. I think we're all starting to feel like we're regaining strength, but start to feel like I can take more of my place in the world in a different way and in a better way that I feel easier about, and to show up more, to deal with these hard situations and to maneuver them forward in the ways that they need. Okay. Because I feel like we've been in more of a feminine time of the past few months, which has been hard for a lot of people to stay home and to not go to work and to work on the internet and things like that. I think it's been really hard, especially for a lot of masculine people. But I feel like now that's the masculine is getting with it. Okay. And finding itself and moving forward and returning and making a difference, guiding attention to a focal point, guiding and directing things in positive ways. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a card to hopefully sum some things up here for you. Anything I want to mention that I haven't mentioned yet. Yeah, a few things. Do I want to, I'm like, don't want to say this? I really do. I'm just going to be honest. I really do believe a new chapter in life is here. That's better. I know some of you may not believe it. I know it may not look like it externally, but I'm telling you, I really do feel it. And even though it doesn't look like it now, I really do think a lot of you are going to get to April of this year, which is not really too far from now. A lot of you are going to get to April this year for months from now, and you're going to be like, wow, a new chapter in life really is here. And wow, look at how much did change over the course of these past 4 months, January to April, even if right now it still is a little hazy. But I'm telling you, I still feel that way. I know in a lot of my videos, I've said, in the past, things are going to move fast. Things are going to move fast between January and April of this year, which we're just at the beginning of, really. And they still kind of seem to be a little stuck, especially the past 2 weeks and onwards. But I'm telling you, I think that's just an appearance. It seems, right? Neptune square the nodes bring illusions. If some of you feel like you're still stuck in these old things, I really do feel like it's an illusion. It just seems to be that way. It's not actually that way. And that once you get to April, you're going to look back and you're going to realize, oh, things actually were coming together positively. Okay. This card, I think it's our card. I just turned over. It is the 9 of Swords upright. What is the 9 of Swords about? The 9 of Swords to me is typically one of like perseverance in a lot of ways, especially the 9s, like you're almost there. You're almost at a 10, keep going, and 10s are, about completion in some way. So my thought here is to like not give up and to not give in to fear and to keep being, of course, that full moon in Leo, bold and courageous as you move forward. The 9 of Swords to me is also a lot about nightmares and fears and anxieties and worries. And so another message of this card as well is to not fear. Do not fear, because the fear is preventing you from moving forward and is making things worse. Another thing too that I get with this card as well is that the fear, of course, is worse than what actually might happen. Like maybe some of you are like, I can't be my authentic self because people aren't going to like me, or I can't talk to a relationship about who I am because they aren't going to like me and it's going to be hard and bad things are going to happen. And maybe that's the real illusion here. Maybe the real illusion that's going on at this time, sure, is about the way time's functioning. But maybe part of the illusion that's going on at this time is that you think people are not going to respond as well as they really are. So I don't know. I'm getting another message here for some of you. Like some of you, things are actually going to go way better than you think. I don't know if I can say that for everyone, but I'm telling you, I think for some of you, these conversations about who you really are and your truth, especially if they come from a really authentic place, are going to go a lot better than you think. And to not let the fear get you down, because the fear that they're going to go bad is not true for many of you and only stopping you. And you need to be courageous, persevere, and continue moving onwards and not let these worries get the best of you. Okay, the 9 of Swords. Another thing too about this as well is that I see the swords up here in this card. This is the Mermaid Tarot, by the way. And then I see water down below. And to me, the swords are the intellect and the water is the emotion. So another thing that I'm getting from this card as well is to balance the emotion and the intellect when we go to express ourselves and to talk to people, especially with a lot of the Aquarius influence going on now, to balance the emotion, the intellect. That means to be understanding towards other people when they express their truth to us, and for us to be understanding towards them and how they might respond. So I think there's also a call for mutual understanding that's going on here at this time as we're all trying to get our bearings in a new space and move forward. Not only is this about mutual understanding, but I think this is also about you being kind to yourself as well. Like being authentically yourself without the mask of the past is hard. not only try your best to handle these situations with tact with yourself and other people and be understanding, but be kind to yourself as you get your bearing in this space too, because it can be a little bit hard. Not only that, but another message that I'm getting here is that some of you may be working up in your mind that being your authentic self is going to be bad and somehow we're not well received, and that could be bringing in a lot of tumultuous emotions. And I'm also getting the sense here from this card that some of you, in order to not let these fears get the best of you, may need to put mind over matter or bring more of the logic into the situation so that you can balance the emotions and so that they don't get the best of you. Or vice versa as well. But I think I'm feeling more intellect needed here, more logic to calm the tumultuous inner space will be helpful. Okay. The card at the bottom of the deck is the Ace of Cups reversed. So the Ace of Cups to me does indicate feeling a little bit emotionally out of sorts, especially if we've got nightmares and fears about being ourselves and what we got to say to people and how people are going to respond. But I think this card is saying to me, like, it's okay to feel emotionally out of sorts. It's okay to go to people and feel weird being yourself, feel weird saying things you got to say, or to be awkward as you express what's going on there. It's okay. You got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. And who cares if you being your authentic self and expressing something, if something comes out wrong at first? Who cares if it comes out wrong at first? If it's messy? Sure, try to balance your emotions, but if you can't, who cares if it's messy? Who cares if you come to someone, trying to offer a cup of your authentic self and the water spills over, the emotions spill over and everything comes out? It's fine. It's fine. You'll pick up the pieces after. You'll clean it up after it all comes out, which is like a Mercury retrograde kind of thing. You'll clean the mess up after it all comes out. Don't let that stop you. Don't let that stop you from being yourself and putting it out there into the world. Relationships are messy. Life is messy. And that's what makes it beautiful, That's what makes us human. And not robots. Robots are perfect. Robots do everything but, kind of stiff and by the book. But we're humans. We don't do things stiff and by the book. And we're humans who love other humans. And humans are imperfect. And humans have emotions. And that's what makes love and makes life worth living. So don't be afraid to have things be messy at first before they get better. Because I think things are going to end up fine in a lot of the worries in your head. And because if people are really meant to be in your life, and if it's not a relationship, if something is meant to happen for you, a business based on your authentic truth. To give you another example, if something's meant to happen for you, it will happen even if you come messy. Even if you come not right, even if you come weird. If something's really meant for you, it's not going to care. And to trust that and to go forward with it. All right. I think that's all I'm going to say. So that's your forecast for the full moon in Leo. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful for you. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube. Share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you on the next one.